โอเคone two one through one two one two 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4น่าจะโอมั้งได้ยินชัดเจนนะครับขอบพระคุณครับส่วนใหญ่เสียงโอเคหมดครับแค่ตอนนี้แสงไม่ดีตรงนี้มืดมากเหลือเกินแต่ไม่เป็นไรนะฮะลองดูนะครับมืดมากแล้วไฟไม่สวยแต่ไม่เป็นไรเพราะว่าอันนั้นเป็นเรื่องซึ่งเดี๋ยวค่อยว่ากันเดี๋ยวค่อยว่ากันผมขยับนี่เข้ามานิดหนึ่งนะฮะขออภัยเดี๋ยวผมขอเดี๋ยวทั้งหมดในวันนี้เดี๋ยวจะเป็นภาษาอังกฤษนะครับเดี๋ยวจะเป็นภาษาอังกฤษเพราะว่ามันมีความจำเป็นนิดนึงเดี๋ยวจะเล่าให้ฟังนะฮะขอผมอัปเดตภาพตั้มก่อนนะครับขออัปเดตภาพตั้มนิดนึงครับในแคปเร็วนิดนึงวันนี้ตั้งแต่ทุ่มหนึ่งเลยนะฮะแต่บังเอิญมันมีเรื่องราวซึ่งเกิดขึ้นค่อนข้างเยอะในช่วงนี้เพราะฉะนั้นก็เลยจะโอเคสักครู่นะครับอันนี้จะเป็น English version โดยที่บังเอิญผมรู้สึกว่าประเทศไทยตอนนี้มันมีหลายสิ่งหลายอย่างเกิดขึ้นโดยที่ต้องมีการสรุปนิดนึงเพราะว่าบังเอิญคือเจอเพื่อนถามมาแล้วก็เลยคิดว่าต้องสรุปให้ชาวต่างชาติเข้าใจนิดนึงว่ามันเกิดอะไรขึ้นซึ่งผมคิดว่าคนส่วนใหญ่เขาเข้าใจอยู่แล้วผมคิดว่าคนส่วนใหญ่เขาเข้าใจอยู่แล้วโอ้โหทำไมมันเวอร์ขนาดนั้นโอเคเดี๋ยวจะ tilt นิดนึง tilting the camera it's a bit โอเคละอันนี้ไม่ต้องนะอันนี้เป็นหมอนซึ่งเอาไว้ใช้นอนนะฮะเวลาบินแต่ผมไม่ชอบบินนะฮะก็เลยมาใช้ในบ้านโอเคเรานั่งไขว่ห้างได้นะฮะแต่ว่าเดี๋ยวผมจะปิดเสียงไอ้เครื่องผมละโอเคผมคิดว่าผมไม่คิดอะไรมากแล้วกับไอ้มุมต่างๆเนี่ยเพราะว่าเซตอัพแต่ละซีนมันก็ไม่เหมือนเดิมจากอุ้งมือธานอสสู่ระฆังแห่งความยุติธรรมนะฮะแล้วก็วันนี้เอาแก้วสีแดงของดีนแอนด์ดูลูก้าซึ่งไม่รู้ทำไมมีอยู่ที่บ้านเนี่ยนะฮะโอเค alright เดี๋ยวจะวางให้มันเข้ามุมนี้นิดนึงทำไมเมื่อวานตอนที่ไลฟ์เนี่ยมุมตรงคอมเนี่ยไม่เห็นแปลกมากเลยโอเคไม่มีอะไรมากผมอยากจะสรุปเป็นภาษาอังกฤษนิดนึงว่าอะไรเกิดขึ้นในประเทศไทยเพราะว่าบังเอิญเมื่อกี้มีเพื่อนที่รู้จักเนี่ยเขาเมสเซจมาถามว่า what's happening in Thailand's politics เสร็จแล้วผมก็ตอบกลับไปว่า my English is a bit rusty but what I am going to try to do is summarize what's happened in the past couple of days the past couple of weeks here in the Kingdom of Thailand so that everyone around the world can understand what's happening so I amบอกนพดลSo I'm titling this, I'm putting a title on this, What's Happening in the Kingdom of Thailand. This is a brief summary. I'm just trying to do this because I've been thinking about this stuff all day, all week. And a lot has been happening. And I have talked endlessly ad nauseum for the past couple of days about the role of the Constitutional Court and the role of the political parties that is basically working in tandem with the dictatorship and the role of the political parties that is trying to create some sort of a democratic transition down the road. But I think I have not spoken in English for a long, long time. So I think it's quite important to summarize what's happening so that people around the world and also English-speaking people here in the Kingdom of Thailand can understand what is happening clearly and precisely. Now, I have to warn you a little bit. I'm going to take probably half an hour. This is live, and my eyesight is not that good anymore. I can't really see the screen, so I'm not going to look at the questions, but I'm going to do a brief summary of Thailand's politics, the kind of stuff that I used to do when I was at Channel 11 back in 1998, 1999, or 2000. So going back probably 22 years. I used to do English language news until I realized that I couldn't get famous doing English language news. So I had to switch over to Thai. And when I switched over to Thai, my English became really rusty because as you probably well know, if you don't use a particular language for a long, long time, your skills in that particular language would deteriorate, right? So my English language skills have deteriorated somewhat. It used to be a little bit better than this. Anyway, okay, so let's do a brief summary so that you know what's happening. And this is probably like 85% facts and probably 50% opinion. So you have to separate my opinions out. But I think you probably are able to do that. It's not difficult. But the crux of the matter is this. Thailand has a constitutional court. Its main role is to dissolve political parties and to ban politicians. So inherently by design, it's really not a court that is in charge of trying to improve the country's democratic standings. Many people in Thailand view the court as an organ of the dictatorship. For the most part, the court has not really cared about its popularity. It has dissolved a lot of political parties, including the party that just won the recent election, the Move Forward Party. Move Forward is Khao Klai. Khao Klai is orange. Okay, I'm going to use color tones here to describe the political leanings. But Move Forward is a party that was formed and was led by Pita Limjaroenrat. Pita Limjaroenrat is the charismatic leader of the Khao Klai Party, the Orange Party, that won the previous election, and his party was just dissolved on August the 7th, which is approximately 2 weeks ago. So the courts dissolved the Move Forward Party. Now you have to remember that previously there was another party that represented the orange side, that represented the progressive side. That party was called the Future Forward Party. So the Future Forward Party was the precursor to the Move Forward Party, right? Anakot Mai. Anakot Mai, the Future Forward Party, was also dissolved. You can go into the details as to why these two political parties were dissolved in the statements from the courts, but that doesn't really matter. Basically, the Future Forward Party and the Move Forward Party, Anakunmai and Gaoklai, respectively, are progressive democratic parties in Thailand. Their political leaning is democratic progressive. So they want some form of a social democracy. They want real democracy. They want reform of the powers of the institution, and they want to curb the powers of the armed forces. A lot of these things are quite popular and is really mandated by the people through the very easily proven electoral victories of Future Forward and Move Forward. Okay, so basically you have two very popular parties that have been dissolved. But the precursor one, the Future Forward Party, did not win as many seats because it was the first time around, but did not win as many seats as Pita's Move Forward. Move Forward won the election, and had the legitimate right to form the coalition. But basically, Thailand is in a political quagmire because we have the Constitutional Court that keeps taking these actions that basically does not take into consideration the will of the majority of the Thai people. The majority of the Thai people have spoken. They voted for the for the Move Forward Party. And the Move Forward Party was dissolved because they wanted to amend lèse majesty laws, which should be amended. But if you're a political party in Thailand, and if you try to amend lèse majesty laws, then the Constitutional Court would wrongly deem the attempt to amend lèse majesty laws as an attempt to overthrow the regime. Okay, so let me state this again before we get to the point where Patong Thanchinawat becomes prime minister. The courts dissolved the Move Forward Party, alleging that they have a policy that is aimed at overthrowing the regime, which is not true, because the lèse majesty laws that are in place were made stricter under the rule of Field Marshal Sarit Thanarat. So before the rule of Field Marshal Sarit Thanarat as prime minister, before his time, the lèse majesty laws were actually less strict. It was made stronger with longer jail sentences and with other details that were put in place to make sure that they would be able to hunt down all of these, student communists, which was the fear back then during the Cold War years. Anyway, so the attempt to amend the lèse majesty law got the for the Move Forward Party in trouble, and they were dissolved. So while that's happening, there's another petition that was lingering in the courts, the same Constitutional Court. And the Constitutional Court is not at all accountable to the executive branch or parliament, right? You and I, the average Thai citizen, do not get a say as to who sits on the Constitutional Court. Neither does Parliament nor the Prime Minister. None of them have a say as to who sits on the court. They arrive at their position by placements in appointments that take place within the circles of the courts. All right, so the Constitutional Court, you could say, is really unaccountable to the people. It's not beholden to the executive branch. It's not beholden to Parliament. It's not beholden to the Thai people. The Constitutional Court is not beholden to the average Thai citizen. It can essentially do whatever it needs to protect the regime. Okay, so while there was the dissolution unfairly of the Move Forward Party, Essentially, you dissolve the party that wins the election. You also have another petition that was lingering in the court to ask for the sacking of one of the leaders of the Pheu Thai party, one of the prime minister candidate of the Pheu Thai party, who happens to be the prime minister. Basically, quote unquote, the leader of the party that came in second place, that formed the coalition. So there was an inquiry that was made into whether or not Sethar Thavisin, now former prime minister, violated ethical rules in proposing a former lawyer by the name of Pichit Chunban to become a minister. So Pichit Chunban is a lawyer in practice long time ago, before he was disqualified, disbarred, and banned. He was disqualified, disbarred, and banned because he attempted to bribe a court official. Now, because he attempted to bribe a court official, Pichit Chunban was sent to prison already over 10 years ago for 6 months. He served 6 months in jail because he attempted to bribe a court official. He was sent to jail, then he came out. This happened over 10 years ago. And because Sethar Thavisin proposed his name as minister, Sethar is deemed as unethical. Now, if you're thinking about this, should Sethar have appointed this minister? Probably not. But did he violate ethical rules to the point whereby he should be sacked from the position of prime minister? Of course not. Right? He did something that was not appropriate, but certainly not altogether criminal. Right? So Sethar Thavisin had this charge to fight. Now, the problem with the way that the Thai laws are structured right now is that written in the Constitution is basically a code of conduct. Now, the code of conduct also ties into another legislation that pertains to a particular clause in the Constitution. So you have legislation that was made during the reign of General Prayut, and you have the Constitution that was also made during the reign of General Prayut that includes clauses that say that if you lack the moral ethics as is defined by a code of conduct that is written by a group of judges, then you are deemed disqualified, you are deemed unqualified, and you cannot hold political office. Now, this sounds great, right? You want ethical people in office, but it's not great because normally when the Thai people vote for their political leaders, they make a decision. They make a decision on issues of ethics and morality. The Thai people are educated, even though there are some people who say that voters should not have the right to vote because they're not educated. That's bull crap. The Thai people, poor or rich, are educated enough to make a decision on their own, not for the courts to make, not for the army to make. The Thai people vote for a particular politician, weighing the quote-unquote goodness, ethical, morality of particular politicians. We voted, but then all of a sudden, because of this appointment by Sethar Thavisin of this guy named Pichit Chunban, you have a person, basically a guy who runs errands. Well, actually, in this round, not a guy who runs errands. You got a group of senators who put together a petition and then went to the courts and asked for the Constitutional Court, which happens to have the power, asked for the Constitutional Court to sack the prime minister using the particular legislation and also a particular clause within the Constitution that says that the prime minister has to act in accordance to a particular code of conduct. And that code of conduct, by the way, is written by these very judges, by a group of judges, not the particular judges on the courts right now, but another group of judges. So basically, you have the military coup that took place back in 2557. What year is that? The military coup that took place. What year are we in? The coup took place back how many years ago? Like 9, 10? Yeah. Well, basically, after the military coup, they put in place a group of legal scholars, basically working for the ideas behind the coup. And these legal scholars drafted both the Constitution and also the laws. And the Constitution and the laws work in tandem in making sure that any minute detail in terms of a particular politician, office holder, doing anything that is a little bit wrong, not altogether criminal, could be deemed as in violation of this set of code of conduct. And if you're deemed in violation of this set of code of conduct, then you would be sacked from your political office. And not only that, more than likely after that, the National Anti-Corruption Commission, or the NACC, which is another problematic institution that needs to be reformed, has too much power. The NACC has prosecutorial power, which it should not. If I were writing the next constitution, I would remove that particular power, and I would dissolve the entire constitutional court. But nobody's brave enough to appoint me a constitutional draftee. But anyway, what I'm saying is that the NACC will basically put together another prosecution that will ask the Supreme Court to ban politicians for life who violate these code of conduct. It may even include Sethar Thavisin or Pitha Limjaroenrat. Basically, the code of conduct that has been written by a group of judges. And the code of conduct is being used to target politicians unfairly and to eliminate good, capable politicians from the game. Now, I do want to tell the average person out there watching this that in as far as Thailand is concerned, it's not the story that you have been taught in grade school or in high school. The thing is, there's a story that is told across the world, and it's the wrong narrative. The wrong narrative is that you have poor countries, you have people who are not educated, and then the politicians buy votes, and then eventually you need the judges and you need the armed forces to be in charge once in a while to make sure that the corrupt politicians are taken out. That's a fantasy that is told. That is the narrative that is created and is explained across the world in classrooms. That wrong narrative basically states that people participate in what is termed as rote democracy, and that people go to the polls to vote for corrupt politicians because politicians give them money. That's actually not true. That is the biggest lie in the history of developing countries. In fact, most undeveloped and developing countries do not have vote buying problems. Vote buying is a fake problem created by a narrative presented by the dictatorships of dictatorial regimes. It's a fake narrative. It doesn't really exist. Elections in Thailand are as clean as election in the UK. Elections in Thailand are as clean, if not as clean, almost as clean as elections in the US. Vote buying is not a problem in poor countries. Now, if you think vote buying is a problem in poor countries, that comes from lack of education or wrongly educated. It's okay, it's not too late to wake up. Vote buying is not really a big problem in Thailand nor in other dictatorships. Vote buying is a narrative told by the dictatorships and the propagandists to make sure that there's legitimacy to carry out a coup d'etat or a constitutional coup. Now, if you don't agree with me at this point, you just need to wake up, eat crow, and wake the hell up. Okay. Anyway, back to the story. So basically, you have the sacking of the prime minister. You have the dissolution of the political party that is trying to shake things up, right? The anti-establishment orange, move forward, future forward parties, dissolved unfairly. So what are we stuck with? We're stuck with a situation where you actually don't need the armed forces to carry out a military coup. We're stuck with a situation whereby the armed forces can remain in the barracks where they prefer and not have to face criticisms from the general public, while the organs that is in charge of getting rid of the politicians, the quote-unquote unethical, you understand, these are very bland and boring, not really unethical politicians. You have a set of code of conduct that is basically written by a group of judges. And then the code of conduct is used by fake whistleblowers who is basically kind of like apologists for the dictatorship. Anyway, so we're stuck with a situation whereby the army can remain in the barracks. But while that is the case, you have written within the Constitution and related organic laws, basically a group of judges that is able to carry out the sacking of politicians and the dissolution of political parties. So basically in Thailand, you have a regime that is very democratic in the Thai style. You have elections. It seems like you have democracy because you have elections. But then after the election, the prime minister can be sacked at any time without ever really doing anything wrong. He probably made a mistake on a technicality, but it's a technicality that does not matter in real life. It's a mala prohibita. It is something that is written as a wrong thing, but otherwise altogether really just an inappropriate thing that he did backtrack on and apologize for. But the bigger problem, aside from the sacking of politicians at will, is really the Constitutional Court having the powers to dissolve political parties so easily and ban the executives of that political parties for 10 years, which is what happened with the Orange Party. Let me see if I miss anything. Okay, the lighting is not good. I'm just using neon light. I normally have a better camera and better lights, but I'm just doing this here because I had a friend who I went to SAIS with. I graduated from SAIS. SAIS is a School of Advanced International Studies at Johns Hopkins University. And of course, I didn't learn any of this at SAIS, right? This was in me like before I went there. Probably came to me during my years working before my graduate school days. But basically, my friend at SAIS sent me a WhatsApp message asking what is happening in Thailand. And so instead of just typing away for hours and hours, I decided to put together this explanation and put it on YouTube. And you can share this so that people understand what's happening in Thailand. Now, after Seth Thao was sacked, the political party that is leading the coalition, which is Pheu Thai, right? Because the party that won the election got dissolved. You have to remember this. The party that won the election got dissolved unfairly. They were dissolved because they were seen as trying to shake things up. So they were charged with trying to overthrow the regime. So the number one most popular party was dissolved. Now you got Pheu Thai, which is the second largest party. So now basically it's the same coalition, right? It's the same coalition because the party that won the election was in the opposition. So Pheu Thai has this coalition, so they have to nominate another prime minister candidate. And the other prime minister candidate who was potentially going to be appointed is a guy by Shai Kasem Nitisari. Shai Kasem Nitisari is a mild-mannered dude. He's an old man. He's still healthy. He's a great guy. Very ideologically democratic. And he wants to amend lèse majesty laws. He's a good dude. So because he wants to amend lèse majesty laws, Pheu Thai does not have the guts. No, they probably have the guts, but I think they wanted to appoint Ung Ing. But anyway. So Pheu Thai didn't appoint Kun Chai Kasem. So they appointed Kun Paetongtarn Than. Now, this is the thing about Dr. Thaksin Shinawatra that most people outside don't understand. Dr. Thaksin Shinawatra, who is the former prime minister who was thrown out in a coup led by General Sonthi Bunyarathkalin back in 2006, Dr. Thaksin Shinawatra is not a mastermind type of individual. Dr. Thaksin is not General Prem Tinasulanont. Dr. Thaksin is a reactionary businessman who likes to turn crisis into opportunities. So clearly this was seen as a potential opportunity to put in place his daughter as the prime minister. His party more than likely will not win the next election. So the time is right for Paetongtarn to show the public, even though she's young and is inexperienced, she's 37 and has never held political office, the time is ripe for her to show that she can be prime minister. Now, normally most people would have to go through, prepping and, just being groomed and learning the ropes. It takes a person about 20 years to be in the business of politics before really being ready for politics. But because Kun Ung Ing is Kun Thaksin's daughter, she gets the fast track. It's going to be difficult for her because there's no shortcut to anything. If I take an average person and put that person in front of the camera and tell that person to act like Al Pacino, that person is not going to be able to do that without the experience and the practice. So she hasn't had the practice. She lacks the experience. She's been put here essentially because of her status as the heir to Thaksin. But she does have ambition and passion. I don't knock her for that. But she will have a tough time because it's not easy to run a government. And it's not easy to be in the public light while you're not prepared. And also another point, the very court that Sakseta will more than likely find ways if there are fake whistleblowers who put together a particular filing, which you will have. When you have these lawyers in Thailand who are for hire. Right? Okay, let's say if I was a billionaire and I want to, form a political party to beat Pheu Thai, right? To beat this new party called People's Party, the Orange Party. People's Party is the name of the new party that is a successor to the dissolved Move Forward, right? It's called People. It's a great name. But let's say if I were to want to run in politics, if I was a billionaire who has some money left to hire lawyers or accountants, I could have them go over all the business dealings and every single company, all the shares, everything that Kun Paetongtarn has ever done in her life for the past 20 years since school. And I could put together a portfolio and send that portfolio to someone who is able to file it to the Constitutional Court. You have to understand that the bar for removing politicians in Thailand is incredibly, ridiculously low. So Kun Ung Ing does not have to do anything wrong. You can get some lawyer to find any ridiculous, unreasonable dirt that is not even real dirt, right? At least in most countries, you have to find real dirt. In Thailand, it doesn't have to be dirt. It could be something that is seen as a violation of a particular minute rule that is insignificant. But you could easily do that and have a court that is willing to sack Paetongtarn Shinawatra from being prime minister. And that could happen within the next 1 or 2 years. Now, what will that lead to? What will that lead to? It probably will lead to the appointment of another person as prime minister down the road. Could be Kun Anutin Charnvirakul. But it doesn't really matter, you see, in Thailand who becomes prime minister, because that is not important. The important thing is that we have this problem, and it is the Constitutional Court that has immense power, but keeps on ticking and can carry out the getting rid of democratically elected politicians at will, at any time, even if they don't do anything wrong. And these are politicians who are rightly and fairly elected by the Thai people. The real problem in Thailand is that how do you get rid of the Constitutional Court? You have to understand that previously the problem in Thailand is how do you make sure the military does not carry out coup d'etats? So we live now in an age whereby the military has been pacified due to regime reasons. You see, you can say so much more using English because English is the language of liberation. So basically, the military has been pacified due to regimatic reasons. And because of that, there is another organ in charge to do the stuff that the military used to do during coup d'etats. So the problem now is that in order to get rid of the Constitutional Court, you have to draft a new constitution. But to draft a new constitution, you have to seek a referendum twice, before and after. And if particular amendments is seen as potentially destructive to the regime, then yes, the Constitutional Court can block the amendment process. So if you ask me what's going to happen, you will have an attempt to amend the Constitution, a redrafting of one. And probably, if you get a guy like me on it, you'll get a good one. I'm not patting myself on the back, but if I'm on it, which I'm not going to get to be on it, I will get rid of the Constitutional Court. It serves no good purpose for this country if we want to transit towards a democracy. And I will probably get rid of the National Anti-Corruption Commission, if not lessen their power. The NACC, Papashaw, should not have prosecutorial power. It should have the powers of basically an investigative committee as part of the police force, really. But anyway, so you'll probably have an attempt to redraft a constitution that will be more than likely pretty good. And that constitution will probably not be able to get through either the courts or the referendum. And the military will probably not like that constitution. And that constitution will probably not be ratified. And then eventually the country will run into enough problems and major political snafus and absolutely ridiculous dissolution of parties and more sacking of politicians and all of that leading to some sort of a major protest, probably 2 or 3 years from now, which eventually will lead again to another excuse for the army to come out and carry out a coup down the road. And I bet you that when they do that, they will say that we have to do it because of nepotism, which is clearly, potentially, a particularly popular word that might sound very tempting to a credulous public that views Paratongtan Shinawat as getting the shortcut. You're going to have charges of nepotism. You're going to have charges of the very fact that this constitution itself prevents itself from being amended. You know, the army down the road will probably say that this constitution was drafted in a way that prevents its own evolution. Hence, a new constitution has to be drafted. What I'm telling you is that the kingdom is stuck. We're stuck with a horrible constitution created by the previous coup leaders. We're stuck with a constitution that cannot be amended, literally cannot be amended. The process is too difficult, too cumbersome. We're stuck with a court that is unneeded, unnecessary, unpopular, not needed. We're stuck with the constitutional court. And we're also in a situation whereby the prime minister is the daughter of the prime minister who was thrown out in a coup. And sooner or later, you know, proponents of coup d'etats or proponents of juristocracy in Thailand will make the argument that she's acting on orders from her father. This, I'm not telling you this as someone who's complaining about this. This will be the charge that is laid out by the people who will try to overthrow her, probably 2 years from now, tops. So congratulations. This is where we are, but anyway, Thailand is still a great place to live. It offers basically refuge for Russians who don't want to take part in the war. It offers refuge for Ukrainians who want to live here temporarily to avoid getting killed by the Russians. It offers refuge to many Americans who just are tired of just the loneliness and the cold and the you know, you want some good, you know, Thai service, you know, weed, you know, Thailand has everything. Eventually, we're going to have casinos. So Thailand is still a great place to live. The greatest som tam in the world, the best pad Thai, and absolutely delicious beef noodles. But unluckily so for the Thai people, they're probably bored with that. For the average Thai citizen, not only do they want probably more income, more financial stability for their families, they want the country to be more democratic. Most Thai people don't really want to shake up the regime. They just want to elect a prime minister of their choice. And they don't want the courts to intervene. The courts will not stop intervening until a constitutional revamp. And a major constitutional revamp that would affect the courts would probably be blocked. You see the loop? We're stuck. Have fun.